insulation using the blowing machine and the EcoBead. We've gone through EcoBead a little while ago, and we've spoken about how we use a blowing machine to put various different forms of insulation in, whether it's a fibre or whether it's an EPS or paper or wood fibre. The process is exactly the same. The only difference is with an EcoBead is it goes in with the glue and it's set solid. So what we're going to do is what we've got here, we've got a little picture of the mechanism of how it's injected in. We have a block here. That nozzle goes into the wall or into the void. We have the bead, we have the air, and we have the glue going together in that block. Each of them are controlled individually. So they would turn on the bead, the air, and then the glue. And then turn the glue off, then the air, then the bead, in reverse. So that's the system. Very, very simple. And it all works off one blowing machine. Right, we're going to have a look now at what happens you lost them? There. There you go. Okay, then what happens is the bead condense. Okay, that's the bead going in. The bead with the adhesive in it, with the glue in it, moves like a lava, very slow and purposely. You've noticed this is a 75mm 3-inch hole. And as the bead has gone past, because it's got an adhesive in, it doesn't separate. So as it was moving round and it passed the hole, it actually stayed in its original trajectory, in other words, its original direction. It wasn't until it hit something that it stopped, and then it changed direction to fill in that void. Unfortunately, we didn't have the a long enough video to do that, but it hits a void and then it comes out of the hole as a cylinder, as a round, and that's how it moves. Now, what would happen if there was a void? So, what would happen if there is a void? How do we detect the void? That's why thermal imaging is so important. Every building needs to be tested to make sure that that framework, that envelope is up to standard. Unfortunately, these days, most developers test 1 in 15 houses. That means 14 out of 15 houses are substandard or potentially substandard, because we don't know that they're up to standard because they've not been tested. When it comes to passive house, it's essential that every building is tested for air tightness and thermal image, and this is why. As good as most thermal insulations are, and as easy as they are to put in and everything, there's always a possibility that there's going to be a void somewhere that's not been filled. So we detect that by testing, and that's what we've got here. We've tested the whole building. They've heated the house up to potentially up to 50 degrees, which is very, very hot, and it's left for up to 4 hours, and then it's thermal imaged. And if there's any pockets or areas and voids which has no insulation, it will be picked up, as you can see here by the thermal image. It's very clear. Now, when it comes to filling that hole, all we do is we drill a hole, put the pipe in, and fill it. Then we can retest it instantly. Okay, so testing is so important to make sure that every building does exactly what it says it's supposed to do. And this is how we pick it up.
That's great, John. And so just to point out the obvious, so the blue shading and the green shading and the red shading, they represent different
temperatures. Colours represent temperature. Basically, oranges and reds mean that there's a lot of heat escaping. This is solid mass of insulation. That's a really nice blue. This is grey, and that because the void is radiating heat from it as it comes out of the building, is spreading on the outside of the boards. But this is the void which needs filling, and this is why we test. So if there is somewhere, all we do is drill a hole, fill it up, retest it instantly, and that's how we make sure that all the voids are completely full. And that we do pick them up. If there is a void, it will be picked up, providing it's done correctly.
So in this example, the red patch, what is that representing?
That represents a void. That's heat coming through from the inside. So this is escaping energy. So therefore, it would then be refilled. And that void would be tested instantly as soon as it's filled, and then sealed up if required.
And that void is just a product of the insulation not filling the area, or is it there have been an error?
There's not necessarily been an error. It may just be that you can see a junction point here where there's different boards and there's different connections. There may be a piece of ply here or something obstructing that by moving or to move into that position. That isn't very big. That represents what you see there isn't much bigger than that. That's a 6mm gap. So you can see that's not a huge void. But as void of that size has still been picked up. And that could simply be because there's a little pocket there which has no access to it.
Got you. Great stuff. So just reflecting on some of the conversations that we've had, obviously we've got the recycled blown glass that goes into a single inlet, a single pipe, and then the EcoBead, it has 3 inlets. It has the bead, the air, and the glue.
Correct. Yeah.
Does that present any issues for you?
Not at all. No. The insulation itself is always used by a very similar machine to what we've seen with the Fibre Master or something like that. They're all very similar. The air is just simply dealt with by a standard small compressor, which often runs alongside the fibre machine. And the glue is in a small pot, pressurised pot, and that is filled in with the same pressure hose from the compressor. So most of these things just fit in the back of the small van quite easily.
Excellent. And this image, I think, just paints quite nicely just the importance of testing. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're such a big fan of Passive House and building to standard, because you have your air testing, you have your thermal imaging testing. It's just a critical piece to how we believe homes have to be built.
I agree, 100%. We need to test. This is why we test. As I've said, 14 in every 15 houses is potentially not up to standard because it's not tested. Every house needs to be tested for air and for thermal. Otherwise, how do we know a product's doing its job? You know, if you say it's going to do that job, prove it by testing it.